Hey everybody, welcome back for day 79 of 100 Days of Halloween. I cannot believe day 79 is here. We are almost down to the last 20 squares. Unbelievable. So, if you are new here, 100 Days of Halloween, what am I doing? Well, my lovely friend and Yarny's sister, Ranee, over at the Woolly Llama shop, was doing a live for her birthday, and she was discussing with some of us that she had this brilliant idea, and she was wanting to make a fall Halloween themed blanket for the 100 Days of Halloween. But rather than a blanket that was going to grow and grow and grow as you work on that, and with it being so hot in the South, it would be kind of miserable to work on it. Her idea was to do this blanket in bite-sized pieces or 6-inch by 6-inch granny squares, meaning one square a day for every day of the 100 days of Halloween. And therefore, as you were doing these squares, either in fall or Halloween theme, you're building this blanket and you can put them together whenever. And I've got something popping up on my screen. Um, to use these squares to build this fall Halloween themed blanket. I thought it was a brilliant idea. And she had been, unbeknownst to us, searching the interwebs, compiling this big long list of all of these fall Halloween themed granny squares, um, appliques, all different kinds of things that you could use to make squares or that already involved a square as you were making it. And she correlated each one of those in her list with a number, and then she decided she was going to draw at random out of her Jinx Jack-o'-lantern of Joy every day except for Saturday and Sunday. She draws 3 on Fridays because of her work schedule. But every day she draws and provides you with a free pattern or tutorial to either put in a square or on something fall Halloween themed, whatever you want to use them for. And she does give you sometimes a little dose of inspiration with other projects that are fall and Halloween themed. So I thought it was a brilliant idea. I wanted to join in, and that's what I did. I joined her in solidarity. I really wanted to make a Halloween themed blanket because I'd been wanting to do one for a while, and lifey stuff always got in the way, and I just hadn't had a chance. So this was the perfect opportunity. So we also had some other Yarny friends and sisters join in on, and they are not making blankets. They had a lot of stuff going on, and it was a little bit much to commit to and doing a video every day. We have Nova over at Nova Gnome Creations. She is making squares. However, she is making them for an entirely different project or projects. She is making wearables for herself and some near and dear littles in her life. And she drops a video about once a week ish to kind of update everybody on the journey with that. And she is not going to reveal those projects until her 13 days of Halloween. And we are greatly anticipating that. And then we have Patricia over at the Yarny Cat Crochet. She couldn't commit to a blanket either. She had a lot going on and a lot of other projects. And she surprised us by making, the first thing she did was a little crossbody bag for her cell phone, keys, etc., while she's out and about doing fall festivities and such. And then she surprised us with a matching scarf. She had since then made a Halloween fall themed amigurumi, and word has it on the street she is working on another project. So I can't wait to see when that is finished. Um, so I was looking forward to her video updates whenever she gets a project done. And I know she's got a lot going on right now. So yeah. So any of my Yarny friends and sisters that I mention in my videos, they will be linked in the description box. If you haven't already gone and checked them out and maybe subscribed, please do. They are awesome. I love their content, very creative, and I just adore them. So Myself, I'm doing my blanket a little different than Rainey is. She is drawing hers, of course, from the Jack-o'-lantern of joy, whether she uses all those squares or not, because she has had to pivot with her blanket for several reasons. And if you don't know what that story is, please go check her out. It is so fun. And I love how this whole blanket has just turned into, it's got a life of its own, so to speak. The blanket that Spider's built. Mine, in turn, though, I'm finding inspiration for my squares, some things online, written patterns, tutorials, but I'm also taking inspiration from you guys in your suggestions and guesses every day. Also, have found inspiration from Nova. I have also found inspiration from Patricia. And when I'm out and about in the wilds of the world, running errands or whatever, just things I see, or sometimes things I see on TV. So we never know randomly from day to day what is going to happen with one of my squares, especially since I have been drawing my squares at random. So from day to day, first off, we never know what color my square is going to be. And then I have 24 hours to figure out what I'm going to do with that square to show you guys for the next day. And it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad that you guys keep coming back day after day to see what hijinks we are getting into and fun stuff to see what we're going to do with the square. So, without further ado, let's talk about the squares. So, we've already completed, and I'm doing mine keeping track in groups of 10. And then once I get 10 complete, I'm doing a video short and uploading it as kind of like a recap before I feed my blanket. Um, and if you don't know what feed my blanket means because you're new here, you're about to find out here in a few. Because we do have a blanket update. So we've completed 1 through 70 in the groups of 10. Now we are working on 71 through 80, and we are almost to the 80 mark. Today's number 79. So let's do a quick recap and look at the squares that we've been doing in this group of 10, starting with number 71. And then we'll get up to today's square, and then we'll draw a new one for tomorrow. Let me get a drink. You guys, if you haven't had the Dunkin' iced coffee in the Nutty Pumpkin, amazing. You know, it's spooky season, and I'm all about all things pumpkin spice. So, yes. So, day 71. I had just got back from vacation, and I had pre-recorded videos for you guys for while I was gone because I knew you would miss me. And um, I realized I hadn't prepped a square for my first day back to start recording. So we had to quickly rectify that situation. And I did this pumpkin granny square by Repeat Crafter Me to get us back and going since I was home and get us back into the flow. Um, it's the granny square, pumpkin granny square pattern is on her blog as a written pattern, but it can also be found on Yarnspirations. And I really do need to find that. I have it printed. Um, it's the same square, but the blanket talks about how many squares you need to build this certain size blanket, etc. But if you just want to do the granny square or just a pumpkin, it's on Repeat Crafter Me. All of the information for the day's squares that I talk about will be in my description box under that day's square. And I always try and put a pattern link in there if it will let me. That way it can take you right to it. If it's something that I have free-handed, which has been happening quite a lot, didn't think it was going to be that much, then I will let you know that it was free-handed by me. And as of yet, there is no pattern for them. Um, Hopefully later on I can revisit some of these and build a pattern and get those available. So that was day 71. And then for day 72, random square, we pulled out the Moonlight Cat Granny Square. And this is by the Crocheted Bean. It is a written pattern as well as a video tutorial. And basically, you start off with a black in the center, you transition to the white for the moon, and then you transition to blue to square it off. And then she has you whip stitch these little stars on there and make some little whiskers. No eyes, no nose. You can put them if you want to. I chose to leave it the way she did it because I think it looks so retro and it makes it a little different. And for those of you who are new here, I am always looking for kitty cat patterns for my blanket. Yeah, that's the reason why it's the blanket that Kitty's built. I am obsessed with my black kitties, in real life and in my blanket. But so I left it this way. I love the retro look and I thought it was adorable. So that was a day 73. No, 2. Then for day 73, we drew this like pumpkin spice, pumpkin pie color. And I was trying to figure out what to put on it. And I have some ghosty appliques that were a pattern for a ghost banner from the Caffeinated Snail. And basically, they're little ghosty trick or treaters, and they're dressed in different things. And we'd already used Franken Ghosty. We had used the pumpkin ghosty that was holding a pumpkin, but I made additional to make him look like he's in a pumpkin patch. And then we did the witch ghosty already. So that left us with 2 more. So we used one. We did the vampire ghosty and we put him on this pumpkin pie, pumpkin spice colored square because I wanted to make sure we get them in the blanket before we run out of squares at the very end. So there we go. And that leaves us with 1 more. And I was given an idea by one of you guys for an additional one that I'm going to work on. So there we go. And that was Caffeinated Snail. So then for day 74 square, we drew at random this one in the Red Heart Super Saver jumbo stripes in the brights. And we chose to leave it blank. I've left a lot of these blank to kind of break up the busyness of all the appliques, but I have some appliques that I worked on that are too large for just 1 square. They will take up the space of 2. So my idea is to strategically place some of these that are kind of the same-ish, that won't throw the other one off. We're going to strategically place them in the blanket to implement those appliques because I really do want to use them. I don't want them to go to waste. So we left this one blank intentionally. And then for day 75 square, we drew at random was this maroon wine color. And I was trying to figure out what to put on this one. And I was kind of inspired by one of the things that Ranee drew out of her Jinx Jack-o'-lantern of Joy. And I absolutely fell in love with it because it was so stinking cute, so fun Halloween. And so I chose to go with it. And it was by Golden Lucy Crafts. And it is the candy corn unicorn. And I think that this background wineish maroon color just makes the oranges and the yellows pop for the candy corn. So that was what I did. Golden Lucy Crafts. And I thank Ranee for pulling that one out of Jinx because it was fun and it was the perfect one for this square. Then that leads us up to day 76. We drew this midnight blue color right here, which is Red Heart Super Saver Blue Wave. It's almost like a denim blue. And I really was like, okay, what do I put on it? I've been putting a lot of like on these blue squares, using them for like nighttime with a moon or stars, things flying in front of a moon, whatever. I want to do something a little different. And back several weeks ago, you guys had wanted to see me do a mummy. And I had made a little body form and tried to work with it. and nothing I was doing was coming out right. And I ended up nixing the body form because I figured out the easiest way for me to wrap that mummy was with 1/8 inch white ribbon. So I transitioned from the body color and made a new one in white. So I had that little body form laying in my little box of appliques and that are ready or not quite finished. And it didn't have a home on a square. I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do with it? Because I don't want it to go to waste. Maybe I'll turn it into a voodoo doll or something, or a scarecrow. I didn't know. Well, several of you had been wanting to see this on a square, and I thought this was the perfect thing to use and transition it into something else. And so I came up with Dobie from Harry Potter. And the body was, just the head, the body part, the legs, and the arms. I just had to figure out how to do some ears, and I made a 3D nose. And then I just had to figure out how to do his little pillowcase sack that he wears and his little sock so he can be a free elf. So I free-handed Dobie or Dobby. Depends on who you talk to. Dobby. But I love him. He has quickly become, he is in my top 5 favorites or top 10. I love all the kitties and my purple people eater. And he's right up there with them. So um, I'm hoping that once this is all over and everything's calmed down, I can come up with a written pattern for this because I don't want to forget how I did it because he was so fun and I think he turned out adorable. So that was the day 76 and it was free-handed, so there is no pattern on the internet. Sorry guys. Not at this point. So then for day 77, we drew out harvest gold, or the more I looked at it, to me it looked like a gourd. And I was like, okay, what are we going to put on it? Well, I took inspiration from something I was seeing in our travels when we were on vacation and something I've been seeing around here. And I keep seeing here and there trucks that are hauling pumpkins, gourds, all of that stuff. And I'm assuming they're going to fall festivals locally or pumpkin patches and stuff. So I searched the internet and I found this little truck applique. It's called I think it's the pumpkin truck. Yeah, by Crochet by Colleen. And I thought it was super adorable. And that was what I chose to, because, sunset, fall kind of vibe and everything. And I thought it was adorable. So that was what we put on our harvest gold or gourd colored square. And I'm glad I did it because I like how it turned out. And then for day 78 square, we drew at random this Red Heart Super Saver in neons. It's the jumbo stripes in neons. And this one was done in C2C. And I chose to leave it blank because it was so busy. But one of you guys, or was it two, had suggested that maybe at some point I make some eyes to put on there, like it's like a ghosty or a ghoul or whatever kind of peeking out. And I may end up doing that because I think it's pretty cool. And depending on where we strategically place those large appliques, if some of these are blank and I think that they're perfect for, we can always add them. We can always add them. Um, so we left that one blank. And then yesterday for today's square that we drew at random was one from the Red Heart Super Saver Jumbo Stripes in the Brights. We had made a bunch of squares out of a whole skein because we loved how the colors were flowing and all of the squares looked different and had, they just kind of had their own thing. And I'm using a lot of these colors in my blanket and I'm putting my squares together with this in a slip stitch zigzag join that I got from Sam over at Memphis Make. She had talked about it, and she had got that from Christina over at Bella Uncinetto. And I think it adds character to the blanket. And I love how it's making my blanket look with my Halloween fall vibe anyway. So there's that. This was the square that we drew. I think it's so pretty. Right now, I don't want to cover it up. I'm thinking that if we have any that are super similar, I can strategically place it where they're either side by side or up and down, depending on the large applique that I need to put on it. And that way we can use those larger appliques on these. And it is pretty. I really like this one. Um, if there was a yarn that had like these colors, I would be all over it. So there was that one. And that leaves us up to today, day 80. We're going to have, well, tomorrow is day 80. So we're going to have to draw out a square at random and see what we're going to be working with tonight. And let me get a drink. And then we're going to show you the update on the blanket. I am so thirsty today, guys. So let's see what square we're going to be working with day 80, which is going to finish off this group of 10. And that'll only leave us 20 more. And we're getting down to slim pickings. So let's see. Okay. Well, we have this like a turquoise blue. Very pretty. And we don't have, well, we've got some blue in it, but they're all that midnight, that denim bluish, that blue wave. So this is brighter. And, oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about this one. Definitely going to have to think about this one. What's going to go on it. But I didn't even look to see what you guys had said about this square. All right. Sam over at Memphis Makes. Hi, Missy. Have another night off. You have earned it lately. Thank you. And actually, we did take the night off. And I did work on a smaller project, instant gratification kind of thing. That I will not going to show you today because we're going to show the blanket update. I might save it. Oh, what day will we save it for? I don't know. We'll save it for Monday. And we'll talk about that. And then Rebecca Soden, I hope I didn't butcher your name too badly, said, "Oh my God, Dobby is very cute. I just love him. Thank you. I appreciate that." Karen Smith said, "I think you should leave it blank. It's too pretty to cover up." I agree. I don't think it would be covered up too badly if I like was talking about strategically placing two of them for those larger appliques. Those wouldn't be covered up really bad. So that wouldn't be a bad thing. And then Lisa from Lisa Knits said, "Hi, Missy." Hi, Lisa. And Ranee said, "You left the other one blank, so I'm saying something black." No, I was not working with black yarn, not last night, because with the struggle of having that migraine, that was still trying to come back, I was not even trying to work with any dark yarn. Let's just say that what I worked with last night was white and gray. So yeah. Um, and that was the only ones. All right. So put your suggestions, your guesses down in. Oh, I think I know what I can put on this one. I'm going to try and do it. One of you guys sent me an email with a sketch. and I said that I needed to find the perfect square. This one might be it. I'm going to try it. And if not, if it's too dark, then I will, if I have to make a lighter square, I will. I'm going to try and do it on this one because I think this one might work. So we'll see. But if all else fails, put your guesses and suggestions in the description box, and I'll try and peek at them tonight since I'm getting this video out early. So there we go. This is for day 80 tomorrow. All right, guys. So let's do a blanket update. I'm super excited. Um, it has been a while, and we had several squares that were done. We had 2 batches of 10, and I think we had, was it 5 left over from the previous batch? Because if you're new here, how I'm putting my squares together in my blanket, I'm doing it in a C2C fashion because I figured out if I do it that way, as I'm putting my squares, rather than do them in rows of 10, where I've got a seam here, a seam here, a seam here, and 50,000 ends to weave in, by doing it in a C2C, I only have the beginning end and then where I've ended up after completing a whole row. So I only have 2 ends to weave in for the whole entire row. And I think that's perfect. And it's turning out so fun. So I wait until I have enough for a complete row before I add um before I add any more into the blanket. And seeing how I was on vacation, we had 2 groups of 10 and I think 5 left over from the previous. And so that left us with 25. So I was able to get 2 rows in. We, last time you saw it, I think we had left off where we had 9 going across and 9 up and down. So I was able to add row 10. So it made us 10 across and 10 up and down. And now we are doing the decrease. So then we were able to add in the 9, the row 9. So let's see. Let's see. And it's getting huge. So let's see. So as you can see, oof, we have started our, as you call it, decrease when you're doing C2C, because we've reached our max 10 going across and up and down. So now everything, we're just going to stay. There's that row. And then we've got that row. And oof. And she's getting heavy. Oop. Didn't show you there. With the pumpkin pie. And then, whoops. Ooh. I'm going to have to spread her out on a blanket and take pictures. And here is our very bottom going across. And here we are. So as you can see, she is getting big. Yeah. And I am so in love with this thing, guys. I am so in love. And I can't wait to add, because once this group of 10 is done, we will be able to add a whole entire other row, if not 2. I'm not sure. We'll have to see, because I'm trying to remember. Oh, my chair just sank. Whoops. We will have to see. I'm trying to remember how many were left over after I put those 2 rows on there. And with this group of 10, we may have enough for 2 rows. I'm not sure. I will let you guys know. So, yes, with that, I'm going to let you guys go so you can get back to your regularly scheduled Thursday. And I'm going to go start trying to figure out this square and see if we can make it work for that viewer inspiration that they emailed me. I'm hoping, wish me luck. Um, and yeah, so I'm going to say goodbye. I love you guys bunches, and we will talk tomorrow for day 80. So, with that, bye for now.